Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for participating in the third iteration of our meetings about chocolate. My name's Steve Giambroni. I teach science courses here at the college. My colleague, Nick Wesemann.
I'm Nick Wesemann. I teach in the hospitality division over there.
And this is really going to be Nick's show today because he actually does this type of thing with his students in one of the labs in one of the courses that he teaches. So he's going to take you through this chocolate tasting today. So once again, thanks for being here. I'm going to be the gopher that's going to be going around and passing the microphone around to get your input as to the flavor profiles and things like that, and any questions you have along the way. Before I give the mic over to Nick, we've got a couple. Well, we have one poster I think right here that has a QR code. The deadline hasn't happened yet. So if you're still interested in going to Costa Rica with us to learn about coffee and cacao, there's still a chance to sign up. We're going to put that poster up on the big screen at the end as well. And then, of course, ask us any questions that you have. Okay, Nick, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to taste some chocolate today. This is similar to something I do in one of my classes. It's a little bit on a bigger scale, a little bit more time. So we're going to talk about chocolate tasting. Just as kind of a review, we've talked about in our previous lecture topics, just talking about how chocolate's made, how chocolate is made again, because it might kind of come up as we're tasting this a little bit. So chocolate, of course, we take the beans, we ferment them typically. That's where we get a lot of the flavor development breakdown. We roast them. That's what's going to give them a lot of the kind of the really dark, deep chocolate flavors that we're kind of typically used to seeing, especially with dark chocolates. And then for the processing, once we grind them, which is kind of what this process looks like here. You take your beans, you mill them down between steel rollers, and you turn the beans into this. It looks like chocolate. It's a very liquidy goo. And then it's pressed. So during the pressing stage, they separate the cocoa butter, which is around 50% of the chocolate itself, and then the cocoa mass. It's also sometimes called like cocoa liquor or cocoa solids, but basically like the dark stuff. So you've got like the cocoa butter, which, I mean, when it's melted down, looks like butter. And then you've got the cocoa mass, which is your dark stuff. It's then reblended. And during the reblending stage, this is where when you're making chocolate, you really have a lot of control over the intensity of the chocolate, the flavor profiles, how sweet it's going to be. And that's where you also add things into it. So this is a stage where you would add your sugar in. This is a stage where you would add any kind of milk product into it if you're making a chocolate that requires milk product. And you'll typically add like flavorings, but typically it's like they'll add like vanilla sometimes, and they'll add like stabilizers like a lecithin to just kind of make sure that the chocolate stays together. And then once it's all reblended, then it is conched, where it's also done a similar process to that. They run it through steel mills for a long time, and that shapes the particles down to where instead of feeling gritty, the particles are so small that you can't feel them on your tongue. So that's what kind of gives chocolate its velvety smooth texture that we're used to. So that's kind of the basic process again. And you kind of have a lot of chances during this entire process to affect the flavor of the chocolate and how it's going to be at the end. So a little bit more information about chocolate. There's chocolate and then there's couverture. So couverture it's kind of a professional term. It has a legal designation if you go over in Europe, what couverture actually is. We don't really have that legal designation in America, but essentially couverture is chocolate that has a very high percentage of good quality cocoa butter in it that lends itself well to melting, if you're doing any kind of tempering work, chocolate making, things like that. So couverture is kind of the term we use professionally for like high quality chocolate. But it's often labeled with a percentage. So if you're buying high quality chocolate, you'll see something labeled as like 55% or 60 or 80%. That's telling you the percentage of cacao that's in that chocolate. So typically, especially when we're looking at like dark chocolates and milk chocolates, the higher that percentage is, the more intense the chocolate flavor is going to be because you have more cocoa mass, cocoa solids in it, and less room for sugar. So less sweet, more intense, maybe bitter, maybe more chocolatey. In the United States, you only need to have 10% cacao for it to be called chocolate. So, which isn't a lot, when you look at that. So, and there are some chocolate companies that really do skirt that. Like they're like, we are doing 10% and we're not doing any more because chocolate is expensive. And as long as we keep that 10%, we can call it chocolate without getting arrested. Now, if you go below that, you can't legally call it chocolate in America. You have to use a term like chocolate flavored confectionery is one you'll see sometimes. These are also things like if you buy the candy melts that you buy at some of the craft stores that are, it's not chocolate, but it melts well. And maybe have different, those also use different fats in it instead of cocoa butter. So if it has the term chocolate on it by itself, you're at least getting 10%, but that's just kind of a good terminology to know. And that kind of gives you kind of a background, because we're going to talk about the percentages of these chocolate as we go. So we are doing a tasting today. And I like to say that tasting is different from eating. Tasting is a little bit more intentional. It's really is a sensory evaluation. And eating is just eating to eat. Tasting is really like breaking down the characters and the quality of the chocolate. And it's using all your senses to evaluate that. Some things that it can affect the flavor of the chocolate, the type of bean that they use, whether it's like Trinitario or Cirolo, those beans can have different flavor profiles in it. Where it's grown, that can affect it. And then whether it's like a single varietal or a blend. So you can get some chocolate that's made from beans that are only grown in one area. And then you're really able to appreciate the term terroir. Anyone heard that term when we talk about wine? Like terroir is kind of described as like the flavor of the land. So for example, when we talk about wine, like grapes that are grown near in vineyards that are near like eucalyptus trees might take on that eucalyptus characteristic because they're grown nearby it. So that goes into the wine. But it's like very much where it's grown affects how it tastes. And when you're doing a single varietal chocolate, you can really see that because you don't have a blend of other flavors coming into it. And it really lets that one bean, that one location, that one varietal really kind of shine. The cocoa content, the cacao content can also affect it because, like we said, it's going to be more bitter. And also the quality of the ingredients we use, or they use, like whether that's like the quality of the cocoa butter, the beans themselves, the sugar, the milk powder, all that. There's quality levels in that can kind of affect that. So we look at how to taste. Like I said, we're going to use most of our senses for this. So visual, things we're looking at when we look at the chocolate. We want to look at the color of it. And I mean, just looking at your sheet right now, like all these chocolates, we've got like a gradient of like off-whites and tans and like one pink in there. So not all chocolate is just brown, right? And that's where you kind of, we've given you this kind of handy wheel. I don't think there's color on here, but this will kind of help you as you're trying to maybe put into words what you're tasting, what you're feeling, what you're smelling. This can maybe give you a little bit of a vocabulary to help you kind of express that. But we're looking at color. We're looking at shine. And shine is typically going to come from the tempering process and how well it was tempered. A lot of these aren't necessarily going to be super shiny because they've been packed in bags and like they bump into each other and they get kind of roughed up. That's why it looks kind of scuffed up. And then you may also look for bloom. There shouldn't really be any bloom in any of these chocolates. There might be a little bit of fat bloom on some of them just because some of them have been in and out of the correct temperature ranges. But bloom, it just occurs when chocolate is either exposed to humidity or it's taken outside of its preferred temperature range. So either the sugar kind of rises to the surface or the cocoa butter maybe kind of rises to the surface. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's maybe gone slightly out of temper. The touch, when you're looking at the chocolate, like you kind of want to manipulate it. You want to bend it, touch it. If it's melting in your hands as soon as you touch it, that means it wasn't tempered properly, usually. So like it's going to melt as soon as you touch it. Properly tempered chocolate does not melt. It won't melt instantly just from the heat of your hand. But you might also want to look at how hard it is. Like if it's very firm, is it very rigid? Does it have a lot of give to it? And if it's soft, it could be just because, again, maybe tempering, or it could just be because lower amount of cocoa butter no matter cocoa solids, it might have a lot of sugar in it, so it doesn't have a lot of those ingredients that give it the structure. For the sound, if you take chocolate and you break it, ideally a good quality temper means you'll get a snap. That means that all the cocoa butter crystals were aligned. We've got a good temper on it. For aroma, sometimes you'll rub it. If you take the chocolate and rub it between your fingers, you can then like inhale it, give it a smell, and get some characteristics on that, because aroma is very important with chocolate. And it's also good, like after and this is true with like coffee or wine or anything, like after a while your nose just kind of starts getting worn out, you can't smell anything. If you need to refresh your nose palate, just sniff something else. Like when I was doing wine training, they always told you just like smell the back of your hand, because that just gives you something that you can smell other than wine to kind of refresh what you're smelling, or anything to just kind of break up the chocolate. And then when we taste it, chocolate needs to melt, and that may take a minute. So you don't just want to eat the chocolate and swallow. You need to give it time to melt on the roof of your mouth to really let all the chocolate coat the tongue. You want to inhale, because we get more of those olfactory aroma senses through that. Move it across your palate, really kind of feel like the mouthfeel. Is it astringent? Is it creamy? Things like that. And then we move on to another chocolate. It's good to refresh your palate. Take a sip of water. We've got water over there if you need a little water to refresh your palate. But these are kind of lined up to where we might be going from like least intense to most intense. But still, it's good to like refresh it so you're not maybe getting like caramel notes that we had on one chocolate, and then like maybe you're still tasting that caramel when we got a chocolate that has nothing to do with that. So it gives you a chance to like really reset and kind of go on for that. But yeah, any questions on how to taste, or you just want me to shut up so we can start eating? I just figured it was probably that. So kind of quick thing, like a lot of the chocolates we got today, if you look at the top of your tasting wheel, we got from Club Chocolate or Mid-America Gourmet. He gave us a lot of the chocolates we're using for that. He sells to a lot of like professional kitchens as well, but he also has a shop for like, if you as a non-professional want to go and like buy a pound of one of the chocolates we're doing. If you don't want to buy like a whole case of like expensive chocolate, if you just want to buy a little bit for something, he breaks it down to where it's a little bit more economical for the home user. And he's over in Overland Park, so he's got a little storefront there if you want to do it. Club Chocolate. If you Google Club Chocolate or Mid-America Gourmet, you can do that. It might still be in the chocolate store also. It's had a few names. I Googled it before I looked, and I looked at the Club Chocolate and a few about us. We can pull it up at the end, but his name's Andrew. He owns it. He used to be a faculty member here also. So, but yeah, if you need some chocolate and pastry things and you don't know where to go to find some of these chocolates, you can find most of them there in some fashion, most likely. Okay, so let's kind of move on. So let's start. We're kind of going to start from the upper left, and we're just going to go across and go that way. So this first one, if it wasn't already obvious, is a white chocolate. Let's talk about white chocolate for a little bit. Ingredients in white chocolate. There are no cocoa solids in white chocolate. Otherwise, it wouldn't be white. It would be some sort of shade of tan, brown, black. So cocoa butter, sugar, milk solids, vanilla, and stabilizers. So typically, these range from about 28 to 35% range. So that 28 to 35%, what is that telling us? What's that percentage telling us? So it's a low range, but it's telling us the cacao content. Typically, when you're doing like a brown chocolate, that lets you know how dark and intense it is because of those cocoa solids. There's no cocoa solids in this, so this is typically with a white chocolate telling you how much cocoa butter is in it. So it's like 28 to 35% cocoa butter. Which is not flavorless. It doesn't have a ton of flavor. You can get higher quality cocoa butters, may be a little bit smoother and better, but let's go ahead and start with the first one. So like we said, kind of feel it, rub it between your hands, give it a smell. You may not be able to break some of these are small, so it's kind of hard to break and snap, but mostly I'd like you to focus on like looking at the color, seeing if you can get any kind of aroma off of it. This one, no. Feel free, if you have comments on what you're smelling or tasting. I don't want to give away what I'm saying. I'd like to hear from you guys. So Steven's walking around with a microphone somewhere. Anyone smelling anything off this? Maybe a little bit. It's very hard. White chocolate for me sometimes is hard to get aromas off of because flavors in white chocolate sometimes are very subtle. But go ahead, grab a couple coins and let's give it a taste. Mm-hmm. So, who wants to start? What are we tasting here?
And as you guys are tasting, if you have some comments or questions, just maybe we can do it. Raise your hand. I'll come over to you and give you the microphone so we can get it actually on our recording.
I mean, I'll start. To me, and this isn't a flavor because this is a taste, but this one's very sweet. Like that's the first thing I get is just like not sugar, but like it's very overwhelmingly kind of sweet. I don't get, to me, this is not a very complex white chocolate. Mostly I get off here is like milk, vanilla. It's kind of one note, right? It's like, it's sweet, it's milky, kind of vanilla-y. Like, I mean, it's kind of just like, that's white chocolate, right? Is anyone here a fan of white chocolate? It's okay. I mean, I've had a lot of bad white chocolate where it's just like sugar and maybe vanilla. So it doesn't really have a lot of character. This one's not bad. This is one that I would use. This is kind of like a workhorse white chocolate for me, where if I wasn't going to showcase anything, I just need like to make a ganache, or was just like wanting something white chocolate I was going to add a bunch of other flavorings to that I would use. But this is a 30%. This is called Noël Blanc. It's from Cacao Noël. They're out of France. But any kind of comments on this? This is, I mean, it's white chocolate. A little bit buttery, yeah. Very kind of sweet, just sweet white chocolate. Okay. I don't think so. I don't know if they usually put salt in chocolate. Now, if someone's like making bean to bar chocolate or something, or it is really popular, like add salt into that to bring out the flavor, and salt goes really well with chocolate. I don't know if there's typically a lot of salt put in it, just because if you're using it, you may not want that salt in whatever you're doing. We'll try this next one. So let's kind of give it a little bit rub. You're going to have dirty fingers by the end of the day. And if you want to go back and forth between the two chocolates, you can kind of compare as we go, because we'll have like several milks and you can compare and stuff like that. But what do we think about this one? Any different? Definitely not as sweet. It's a little bit more mellow, not like as just harsh like sugar on your tongue. It does have a little bit nicer snap. Like the other ones, they're small, but if you try to break it, that was kind of a little bit hard to break. This one has a good snap on it. What about the flavors? Still kind of similar. To me, this one has a little bit more character to it. I feel like it's a little bit more cooked than the other one. So like instead of just getting like raw milk and vanilla, I'm getting more like cooked milk, sweetened condensed milk. Yes, sorry.
This one has like less of a filmy aftertaste. The first one felt like it was like kind of like a film on the back of your throat.
Yeah, this one I think is a lot more smoother. It melts a lot nicer. I get a lot of butter on this too. I got a good amount of butter on the first one, but this one to me is just like cooked dairy, butter, sweet. A little bit nutty. A bit toasty. I can see that. Yeah, and that like buttery, rich dairy flavor. To me, this one, even though it's not wildly complex, I mean, compared to the first one, I feel like this one has like more nuance and character to it than the first one, which is just like white chocolate. This is from Valrhona, France. This is ivory, however you say, ivoire, ivory. It's a 35%. So higher amount of cocoa butter, which can account for that higher snap that we talked about. Less sugar, because we've now upped the cocoa butter percentage to 35, so we have less sugar, so less sweet. And what could be giving us better quality? What could be affecting the flavor and giving us better flavor on this? besides that? Anyone? Maybe the quality of cocoa butter, quality of the milk powder. You might be using really nice milk powder for this. But to me, I like the second one a little bit more than the first one. But if I were using the second one, this is one where I would maybe not adulterate it as much, like use it as like as a filling for a chocolate, or like enrobing something where I wanted this chocolate to shine. I would maybe use that as a little bit more forefront than like just throwing it in something to be white chocolate. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, depending on the chocolate, how does that affect the cost of when you bake? So, because this white chocolate is, well, the first one anyway, from what I heard, was not a great one. Of course, compared to any type of higher quality, the cost is affected to the final product. But is it affected as well as when you go from white chocolate to a different type of a chocolate?
It can, like yeah, and it's going to depend on the brand that makes it, because you know Valrhona is typically is a little bit more expensive. Like the Noel Blanc is a little bit more of a, I mean, chocolate's expensive in general, but Noel Blanc is a little bit cheaper. When looking at price, it kind of goes back to like, if I just need white, like if I'm going to do like white chocolate chunks and cookies, like I'm probably not going to use my really expensive white chocolate for something where it's going to be masked by a lot of other flavors, or I'm adding a bunch of other flavorings into it. If I'm just like looking for like sweet white chocolate, I maybe use that. But if I'm using something that's a little bit more expensive, I want to highlight it, or I want it to be like kind of the selling point. Like if I were to make a ganache or a chocolate out of this, I would highlight that and leave it like, you know, this is this Valrhona blend, and I want you to taste the chocolate out of it. But yeah, like you would have less expensive chocolates for like less expensive things. This might be something I would use that I can charge more, because I'm gonna have to recoup my costs for the more expensive chocolate. Okay, this next one's kind of fun. Rub at, smell it. You should get some aroma off that one. Okay, get some fruity, citrusy. Okay, go ahead and bite into that. See a lot of puckered faces. What are we tasting? Fruity. Use your words. What kind of fruit? Grapefruit. Tropical. Good. What kind of tropical fruit? Mango, passion fruit. Yeah. So as you're thinking of those flavors, like it's good that you're starting with like, I taste a spice, or I taste a fruit. Like, okay, break it down further. Is it a citrus fruit? Is it a red fruit? Is it a dried fruit? We think it's a citrus fruit, or we think it's a tropical fruit. You can kind of use that kind of color wheel to kind of go down that way. Yes, very tropical. Lots of citrusy orange. So this is also from Valrhona. This is their inspiration line. They do a line of chocolates that it's essentially white chocolate that they then put freeze-dried fruits into. So this has freeze-dried passion fruit that's added during, we talked about the processing, like when you're conching chocolate, you can add dried ingredients into it and they will conch down with it. So like they've added freeze-dried passion fruit and they process that in with like a white chocolate. So you get that really bright acidity from the passion fruit. They also do like a raspberry, a strawberry, an almond. They do a few flavors. But it's a good way to introduce fruit. Now you can only do that with dried fruit because chocolate is a dry substance. There's no water in it. If you start adding liquids into chocolate, chocolate seizes up and breaks. So the fact that you're doing freeze-dried allows them to add that flavor into it without messing with the chemical structure. If they were to use like passion fruit juice, that would seize up the chocolate and they wouldn't be able to market it. So by pulling the water out, they can then incorporate that flavor. It maintains like that fresh kind of acid flavor. It kind of makes it really nice. So Valrhona. It's very expensive. It's very tasty. It's really good. Any thoughts on that? Do we like it? I saw a lot of weird faces. I don't know if that was just not expecting. It is very sour. But so like uses for that might be, again, like since it's pricey, like as a ganache, or like I've used it as if I'm doing fillings for like entremets, like I'd use that as like a way to incorporate like a layer and then a strawberry entremet, like a strawberry entremet with like a passion fruit inlay, kind of way to incorporate that in there. Yes, it is. It's really intense.
This is a tiny bit of chocolate, and that's a really strong taste.
And you get that anytime you freeze dry fruits, like you really do concentrate like the flavor, because you're pulling out all the water, and all the water in a fruit does is dilute the flavor. So when you take that out, you're just left with like intense flavors. And also the freeze drying process doesn't, when you heat fruit up and cook it, like it changes the flavor. So like cooked strawberry tastes very different than fresh strawberry. If you do freeze dried strawberry, you get that intense fresh strawberry flavor. And you can incorporate that with having like a cooked flavor. So yeah, freeze dried fruit in general, like it's a good way to just add like really intense bursts of flavor to something. And so adding in the chocolate just kind of makes sense. All right. Why is the acidity so sharp?
Yeah, when everyone started to snap, the air got kind of sharp. The smell. Is it because it was the passion fruit was that concentrated?
Passion fruit by itself is very acidic. Like it's like not quite as bad as a lemon, but it is a sour fruit. It's a little bit more sweet sour, but yeah, because it has that really intense sourness. If you were to try the strawberry version of that, it'd be a little bit acidity, but strawberries aren't as like, oh my God, mouth puckering. So it would be a little less intense. But passion fruit is a very sour, sharp flavor. Okay, let's try this next tan one here. Any aromas coming off it before you smell it, before you taste it? How's it feel in your hands? Like, it's kind of sticky. This one's a little bit soft, right? Like, you can break it, but even like when you press it down, like, it's a little soft. Go ahead and give it a taste. Caramel, okay. What else? Coffee or toffee? Coffee or toffee, yeah. Nutmeg, a little spicy. Spices. So this is caramelized white chocolate. The name's kind of a misnomer. It's not actually caramelized because for caramelization to happen, you have to get it to like 320, 325 degrees. If we were to cook that chocolate that high, it would be bad. But they cook it at a low temperature for a long time. And it actually takes use of the Maillard reaction. And it's the milk protein in the milk powder that's in this. And amino acids work on that, and you get that kind of caramel flavor. You can make this at home if you want. If you buy a good quality white chocolate, you can put it in a low oven, like 225, 250, and just stir it occasionally for an hour or so. And it will slowly go from looking like the white, I mean, it'll kind of look like the gradient you have on your chocolate sheet. You'll start out with white chocolate, it'll get a little bit more darker. And you can take it as dark as you want, kind of. But this is semi-new within maybe the past, 15 years or so. They've started making this. Used to be, as professionals, you had to make it yourself. Some people still do like to make it on their own because they have more control over like how intense they want those caramel flavors to be and like that. But it's a little bit softer because I think during that caramelization process, anytime I've worked with it, it's hard to get a really good snap with chocolate after it's been treated this way. You still get a good one, but like as we were noticing, it was a little bit softer, spongier. But like flavor profiles on these, like I think when someone was like caramel, like definitely dead on, right? Caramel, dulce de leche, like that cooked milk flavor, because that's kind of what they're doing is they're cooking the milk solids in the chocolate. But I mean, it tastes like take all the flavors you get with white chocolate and then apply heat to them. And then that's kind of what your characters are. You apply heat to sugar. Now we got caramel. You apply heat to milk. Maybe now it's condensed milk. So kind of follows suit.
Chef?
Yes.
Got a question.
Yes.
So for me, in tasting that at the very end, it felt like all of the toffee forward was completely gone by the time I still had half of the chocolate in my mouth. And at the second half of it was nothing but white chocolate.
Yeah.
Is that typical?
I think so. I mean, even though there is good flavor here, I don't think it's like super intense. So yeah, from what I've had, I think if you make it on your own and you take it a little bit darker, those toffee notes might become a little bit more pronounced and linger a little bit more. But yeah, it's still kind of subtle and doesn't last long. And that kind of speaks to the intensity of the chocolate. And then when we get going later on, like that's something to note. Does like the flavor linger with you, or is it just kind of poof after you eat it? Typically, like you'll get that longer lasting flavor the more cocoa solids you have from it, because your mouth coats and it becomes a little bit more coating on that. But I mean, generally, I like this. It's, it's pretty useful for cookies, fillings, mousses. It's fun flavor and pretty readily. I mean, most people like caramel, but better than butterscotch, and I like butterscotch chips, so this is good there too. All right, let's try this pink one. Also kind of soft when we break it. What are your thoughts? Taste, smells. It's not super strong smell. There's a little bit, but yeah, like it's not like billowing. A little sour, a little fruity end. What kind of fruity end? Okay, we got berry. What kind of berry? Cranberry. Okay, good. But yeah, we're getting the sour. Yes.
I'm getting almost kind of like a floral note.
I would say there's a little bit of like florally bits in there. Normally, like to me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, sometimes when you look at chocolate, I think that the visual can kind of make it like, okay, I'm tasting a flower, it's pink. Am I tasting a rose? And I kind of go that if you want to take it further. But yeah, I would agree. Like maybe a little bit of rose, cranberry, something sour. But we're like getting like kind of tart red fruits, flowers. This is ruby chocolate. This is a relatively new chocolate. It's kind of the fourth chocolate. God, how long has this been around? I feel like 10, 15 years. But it's made with special beans from Ecuador, Brazil, Ivory Coast. It starts with special beans, but then they also go through a little bit of different of a processing. So typically cacao beans are fermented. These are not fermented. They are instead treated with like acid. So that's where a little bit of that tang is coming from, is the acidic treatment that they give it during the processing. But there's no artificial colors or flavorings on this. This pink color is just from the natural processing with acid added to it. They're not adding like strawberry or cranberry juice or anything to it. That's just like the flavors that are developed during this acidulated process for the cacao. It's only 33% cocoa butter, so still kind of in line with like most white chocolates. And as far as structure, but definitely a very different flavor there. But like, yeah, to me, tart, a little bit fruity. To me, I mean, I'm not a super fan of this. It's like, it's almost, for me, it's tart and fruity, but like, it's so subtle that it's kind of like we were talking with the dulce de leche, like it doesn't linger, like it doesn't have the same pop that like that passion fruit one does. So to me, I feel like it just needs to be a little bit more. I want it to be a little bit more intense, but it's becoming more popular now. Also, like same thing with like the caramelized white chocolate. Like we're now seeing like Hershey's and other candy companies, like you can buy like a Hershey's Gold Bar, and I think I've seen someone that's doing ruby chocolate, and that's kind of how menu progression goes. Like kind of little sneak peek into the restaurant industry is like a lot of flavors kind of start out like, they're only used by like the high-end restaurants, and they kind of use those, and they're the kind of the first ones that do it, and then other restaurants kind of grab onto it and they start doing it more, and then eventually it makes its way into like the populist zeitgeist. Like salted caramel is like a flavor I like to use, because like salted caramel, when I graduated culinary school many years ago, was like only in like fine dining restaurants, and it wasn't a thing, and then it was like in restaurants, and now anything and everything is salted caramel, right? So that's just kind of like how the menu progresses anyway. But it's kind of the same thing with chocolate. It starts off very small, very focused, and then eventually it will take over the land. Okay. Because you have like white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and this one is newish within the last 10, 20 years. So it's kind of their new one. Fans of it like it? Yes, no, maybe? It's kind of a novelty, I feel like. But people like things that are pink, and Valentine's Day is good for that. So there is definitely a market for that there. Okay. All right, this is my favorite part of the lecture. Let's move on to milk chocolate. Okay, so milk chocolate, very similar, cocoa mass, sugar, milk solids, vanilla, and stabilizers. So essentially dark chocolate, but we have some sort of milk product in it. Typically, it can be 28 to 45% range, but let's try this first one. Not much of a snap. Smell it. I mean, if you smell this, I feel like everyone can smell this and know what it is. I mean, it's like, this is like the first like potent one that we've had. Like when I smell that, I immediately like, everyone knows what this is, right? Even if you turn it over, you can see what it is. But not a great snap. Kind of, it's not crumbly, but like you can kind of, as you break it, like you look at it, the texture. In case you haven't figured out, this is Hershey's chocolate, which I'm sure everyone here has had Hershey's before, right? Maybe. If not, I'm sorry that you're having it now. So go ahead and taste this. Very plasticky. Chemical aftertaste.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is it so chalky? Like the feel of it is super chalky.
Part of it is because this is like, oh, how much is Hershey? Hershey's is, I wrote it down, 10% cocoa. This is like 10 or 11%. So like Hershey's is like, we're doing the bare minimum to get the amount of cocoa that we need in here. So it doesn't have all that cocoa butter to give it that nice snap. Also doesn't have a lot of cocoa mass to it. I mean, to me, I get notes of vomit when I eat Hershey's. And I hope now you will too, so you'll stop eating Hershey's. It's, I mean, it just gives you, there's this like kind of sour back of the throat that kind of lingers. Anyone know why that is? They're not dumping chemicals in Hershey. As much as I want to badmouth Hershey, they're not dumping a ton of chemicals in it. But, so it's the milk they use, but Hershey's doesn't use milk powder. Hershey's, everyone else that's saying that's making chocolate uses milk powder. Hershey's is the one that and to be fair, this is how they started doing things. They use pasteurized milk. So it kind of gets kind of like a spoiled character, I think. I mean, that's kind of, you add liquid milk into a chocolate and I don't know, to me, it's just very much spoiled, kind of rotteny milk flavor because they're using pasteurized milk instead of milk solids, milk powder. So.
Nick?
Yes.
So I have a Glaswegian office mate. She's from Scotland, and she can't stand American, especially Hershey's,
I think most
milk
people in
chocolate,
Europe can't.
Specifically for the milk reasons.
Yeah,
and
it is like
she can't do it.
I mean, they're used to like, I mean, kind of over there, Cadbury is their like they're cheap. They're like universal milk chocolate, and Cadbury is much better than like Hershey's by far. So yeah, I mean, most people that come over here and eat Hershey's and American chocolate, they're like, what the hell is this? This is literally vomit. But I think it's the milk powder. And not everyone in America does milk powder. This is very much a Hershey's thing. But yeah.
Just adding my personal experience, because I grew up in London.
Uh-huh.
So the very first time I tried Hershey's, I think I spat it out. And I said, oh my God, what's that?
Why
and they were
is
like,
it
that's
bad?
chocolate. I was like, that's not chocolate. If you grow up eating Cadbury's, when you first eat Hershey's, it tastes dusty.
Yeah.
It tastes dusty. It doesn't taste very creamy at all. So that was my experience. Very,
Yes.
very non-chocolate tasting if you grow up with European chocolate. Yeah.
It is. And you're also like, why it's not chocolate? Like, it's barely chocolate. Like, they can call it chocolate, but there's hardly any chocolate in it. It's mostly like sugar and fillers and liquid milk, whatever. So you're welcome for that. Let's move on to a good milk chocolate. It does have a lot of, I think they use a little bit of cocoa butter, but they've also got like some other oils and stuff that could affect it as well. This one. This one should be a little bit better. Any flavors you're getting here? Licorice, okay. To me, anyone else? To me, this is a good milk chocolate. It's not super complex, but like it's very nice. Like it's still good milk flavor, vanilla. I get a little bit of nutty in it, but it's like mellow. It's not super sweet. It doesn't have that sour aftertaste. But kind of night and day from what you just had, right? Like this is good chocolate. This is called Prasse. It's from Colombia. It's a 36%. So still on the lower range, well, kind of mid range for a milk chocolate. Purace, Purace. Company that makes this is called Cordillera. They're a Colombian company. But all right, let's try this next one. This next one I think you're really going to like. Already more complex, right? This is really good. What kind of flavors are we getting? You can pull out some cool flavors on this one if you like think about it and go through your flavor wheel and okay, a little bit toasty flavor maybe. Banana. I feel like I get a little bit of honey. Some kind of fruit, which I'm not really sure, but very dairy-y. And the milk is kind of important in this one. Maybe pear or apple or something, but like caramel, honey, apple, pear, milk, cocoa. This is called Opus Lay. It's from Falkland, which is a Swiss chocolate company. It's 38% cacao. And this is unique because the milk that is used in this comes from very, very happy cows. They live off of spring water. They eat flowers and greens and meadows. They're like the happiest, most well-treated cows you could ever have. And they take their milk and they make chocolate out of it. So you get, I think that milk powder that they're using, that higher quality milk powder gives you a little bit better character into it. But that's really good chocolate, I think. Anyone? I mean, if you go back to the Hershey's and then taste it again, hopefully you'll never buy Kisses again. It is, yeah, a little bit grittier. This one's smoother, but even just kind of like the way I like to line that up is like the first one was 36, second one was 38%. Like they're very similar cocoa ranges, but like still difference in flavor. So you kind of see how like in this case, it's the milk powder that's driving a lot of that flavor into it. Like you're getting a lot of character from those cows. Okay. Let's try these little chips here. Smell it. And are you getting any smell off of this one? Maybe. I know they're so small. They're very. Definitely not Hershey's. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if anyone knows what this is. Who said that? Who said that? You're correct. This is carob. Anyone dealt with carob before today? What was your experience with carob in the past?
The little sixlets.
Okay.
That's what makes me think of carob.
Yep, you're right. Anyone else? I mean, so this used to be labeled as a chocolate substitute, very big in like the 70s, 80s. If you go into it thinking it's chocolate, you're going to be wildly disappointed. But it is a completely different plant. It doesn't come from chocolate at all. have nothing to do with each other. It comes from the carob plant. Differences with this: carob is naturally sweet. Like it can be up to like 50% sugar, whereas cacao is not sweet at all. Like cacao is bitter. We have to add chocolate to it to make it palatable. It's a legume, comes from Middle East, Mediterranean. But flavor profiles, like I feel like it has some flavors in it that are similar to chocolate, but I don't eat this and think chocolate. You know, like it's got some of that like caramely flavors, a little bit toasty, kind of like dried fruit flavors. Syrup, yeah, like very kind of like resiny, syrupy, dried fruity. Like I could appreciate this for being carob, but like if you give me this and tell me it's chocolate, don't be that person. But it's gone that way out of popularity. Like even find these, I had to like sift and be like, find decent carob. But I just kind of wanted to throw you off a little bit. It's not bad, but compared to chocolate. I would say no, just because it's half sugar, and that much sugar is not necessarily good for you. I don't know if it has any other benefits. I'm not that sure. Do you know anything about, Steve, like carob and...
That's a good question. I actually don't, but you're right. I mean, it was kind of marketed as a popular chocolate substitute that maybe was healthier, especially back in the 70s and maybe into the 80s, and then it kind of lost popularity. But the question is, you know, and this is a good question, you know, overall, is it really that much better for you than chocolate? I think the idea is that, you know, less sugar, you know, refined sugars that are added to chocolates that are consumed. These are more natural sugars that are part of the plant itself, but, you know, it's still, you know, simple carbohydrate. So
I think anymore it's used as like people who can't have chocolate if they're allergic or whatever reason. But even there's so many more like other chocolate substitutes out there. Like if it's the milk powder, there's like oat milk things you can get, and there's like mushroom chocolates and stuff. So we've come a long way from carob, I think, but it still does exist, just not as
carob
much.
is also caffeine free, which is one of the reasons that people might use it more than chocolate.
You know, also, thank you for running that. Okay, let's move on to good stuff. I mean, this has been good, but like, I don't know. I typically have a lot of students who don't like dark chocolate, and they aren't into this. I try and teach. Like, I like dark chocolate more. Oftentimes, like I can't even eat a lot of milk chocolate because it's so sweet. But dark chocolate is simply the cocoa mass, sugar, cocoa butter, and stabilizers. The range on chocolate on this can be 40 to 100%. So very high in cocoa content. That's what's going to give you the color and bitterness. And the flavor profiles in dark chocolate are much bigger, much more complex than the other ones we've had. So you can see a lot of variation in these. So let's start with our first one here. Okay. So bitter, right? A little bit bitter on the back of the tongue. What kind of flavors are you getting on this? Coffee. Kind of like smoky, roasty flavors, right? Roasted coffee, roasted deep cacao, coffee, chestnutty. But to me, this is very like kind of bold, intense, roasted dark flavors. Who are my dark chocolate fans? Like everyone? Okay, good. You're all good people. But yeah, so like it's a good dark chocolate. Pretty standard. It's not very sweet. And most of these aren't like, okay, I should probably tell you, this is a 64%. It's from cacao berry in France. It's called Guayaquil. So Guayaquil, Guayaquil. But we've jumped up in cocoa percentage a lot. Like the last milk chocolate we had was 38. This is 64. So we've taken quite a leap here. So going to be a lot less sweet. Going to be a lot more intense cocoa.
Hey, Nick.
Yes.
I've got two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, as a kid, I was milk chocolate all the way, didn't do dark. As an adult, it's the complete opposite. Is that a typical thing? Is that normal as we age that
I think it just
that we're going to
depends
gravitate to the more bitter?
I think it just depends on how you eat and what you do. Because like I know people that are still just like they do not like the dark. They didn't get more sophisticated. I don't know if I want to use the word sophisticated, but like they were just never exposed to it. And it may be a little bit more of an acquired taste because I feel typically as humans we want the sweet. You know, that's kind of just what we want. So kind of going, they just maybe haven't appreciated it. Yeah.
The second question I have is, why does dark chocolate taste so good with red wine?
I don't know why exactly it does. I don't know exactly why. It's just kind of one of those things where like when I'm doing like flavor profiles, like yes, if I'm doing like a chocolate dessert, it needs to be paired with like a red dessert wine or like a red wine. But also like red wines can sometimes have very similar flavors to chocolate. Like you get flavors like you can get coffee flavors in wine. You can get wines that have chocolate notes like leather and smoke and things like that share similar flavors that you can get with dark chocolate. So they kind of mesh together that way.
The first one was tart. Then when I took a taste of the second one, it was sweet.
Oh, the one we just had?
Yeah.
A little bit?
The second.
Oh, the second dark chocolate?
No.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, since there's multiple ones, it got sweet.
Mm-hmm. Let's try this next one here. This one doesn't have a very strong aroma, but I think once you taste it, right now I'll tell you these are both the same percentage in cacao, so there's no difference in cocoa content, but you're going to see a very big difference in flavor, I think. Right, like, what are we getting? Definitely not like roasty, toasty, dark, right? Raspberry, good. Fruity, okay. A little bit smoother. Acid, right? Like tart. Tart sour. That first one was not acidic at all. It was like back of the tongue, bitter, coffee, chocolate. This one is like side of the tongue, acidic, bright. This is a 64% from Valrhona called Manjari. This is a single varietal made from cacao that's grown in Madagascar. And that's just kind of Madagascar one of the things Madagascar does, Madagascar chocolate takes on the terroir, it does produces very red fruity chocolate. So like the first dark chocolate and the second one are both blends. This one is just a single origin from Madagascar. So you do kind of get more of those, you get to see like the flavor of the land, the terroir of Madagascar. Okay, this last one, almost done. This one's a little bit more darker. Also pretty different, right? Like I think these three dark chocolates are like night, day, and afternoon, and whatever flavor character we're looking at. What do we taste here? Coconut, definitely. I get like that's exactly. I couldn't put my finger on it, and the coconut. That's exactly what I was tasting. Mm-hmm. Even though this one is a 72%. It's from Guittard. It's called Coucher de Soleil. But I think this one is less bitter than the first dark chocolate we had, right? Like the first one was at 64%. It was very bitter. This one seems less bitter, a little bit more mellow, right? Like that first one was coffee, nuts, this one is like coconut, cacao, a little bit of bitter. It's a blend. It's from beans from South Pacific, West Africa, South America. So you don't get as much of that like when the second one we had, or was all Madagascar. I think when you blend chocolate, you can kind of take characteristics from chocolates you like and kind of blend them together. So that's why we're getting coconut and full body cacao and stuff like that. Any other flavors you guys are picking up out of that? Very bit floral. Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with you. It's surprisingly like light flavors for like a dark chocolate. You know, where the other one, like the first one, is very much like, this is what I expect a dark chocolate to taste like. This one's a little bit more mellow, subtle and open. But Okay. Any other questions for the audience before I wrap up? We that was all 12 chocolates. I hope I gave you enough. Yes. Phenolic. Where is that word? Oh, that's kind of like a chemically taste, like kind of like that. Which, like, when people were like saying the Hershey's, maybe they were getting some of that there. Yes. Yeah. Oh, Club Chocolate. So that if you on here, that their little logo up here, on there on your flavor wheel, that C, that's their logo. So the Club Chocolate. You can go there. If you Google like Mid America Gourmet or the Club Chocolate or the chocolate store, you will eventually get there. Yes.
Oh, I was wondering, like, so I know, I guess now I'm wondering of like the chocolate that I grew up eating and whatever. Like, so now we know and hate Hershey, but like,
good.
I feel like I don't know if it's just me because everybody loves Tootsie Rolls. I feel like that's barely chocolate. There's no chocolate. Okay, it sucks, and I've always thought that.
Yeah, it is more like a confection than a chocolate. It's like got so much sugar. I mean, they may be flavoring it with a little bit of like chocolate or something, but yeah.
Okay. That makes so much
I mean, I
more
like
sense
Tootsie Rolls too, but like when I'm craving chocolate, I do not crave a Tootsie Roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never craved Tootsie Roll in my life.
If I go to the drugstore to buy chocolate, I probably buy a Twix or a Snickers. I mean, if we're going candy bar, like one of those, good. What do I like if I'm buying? Like Lindt is pretty good. And Lindt's been around a long time, and I believe I hope I don't misspeak. They were the ones that invented the conching process. So I mean, they're like, even though you might find them in drugstores, they've been around for a long time, and they're doing good quality like chocolates and truffles. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Of the ones that we've all tried, what's your personal favorite from the lineup?
That we did today?
Yep.
I like that passion fruit one. I like the Manjari. I like the second dark chocolate. That's one that I just always like because it always surprises people, and I do a lot of desserts with that. And I like that passion fruit stuff. But maybe the Manjari, the last one we had, is a kind of a personal favorite that I always like to include. But that third milk chocolate that we did was also pretty good too. No problem. Thank you. So yeah, thank you for coming. Again, we have you can sign up for our Costa Rica study abroad for one more day. Might extend it a little bit, but if you want to go to Costa Rica for 10 days and look at coffee and cacao and traipse through the rainforest with us, you can sign up for that. Steven, do you have anything?
Be brutal. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. When will the trip be? So the dates are here for the travel component, but it's a course, it's a class. So it's 2 credit hours. You register, pay for your tuition, and we're going to have the course itself. The course meetings will happen in the fall semester, this coming fall semester, over 5 individual class meetings, only 5 sessions for 2 hours each. We haven't finalized the day or times for that, but that'll be forthcoming. But the travel period is listed up on the screen there. January 1st through the 10th. Yes, we're going to leave early in the morning on New Year's Day, but that's how we get better flights. The flights are cheaper. So, but yeah, the QR code should still work for you, or you can email or contact Nick or myself if you need more information. We've got some baggies if you want to take your uneaten chocolates home with you. And of course, your placemats and your color wheels, those are fine to take with you as well. Guys, thanks for being here.